And you said that you were an actor. What do you do with acting?
I do comedy, play bad guys sometimes. Do you see Austin Powers?
Oh,
Um, I played a little role in part one.
okay. What else have you do? Just act? Is that how you make your living, just acting? And
I'm a professional fighter,
what kind of fighter?
MMA. You can find me at Wikipedia, believe it or not.
The unassuming middle-aged man you see in this video is Joseph Hying-Min Son, a South Korean-born former mixed martial arts fighter that competed in UFC 4. He is also the scariest and most savage human being to ever step foot in the octagon. And when I say savage, I do not mean it as a compliment, because the things that this man has done are absolutely disgusting, and this video will not be for the faint of heart. So if you're a sensitive person that generally likes to see the best in people, I would strongly consider skipping this one, because it's gonna be rough. And with that said, let's get into the story of Joe Son. If you're an MMA fan that's younger than age 30, the likelihood of you recognizing this man isn't very high. Joe Son made his debut in 1994 at UFC 3. Not as a fighter, mind you, but as the cornerman for Kimo Leopoldo, a former collegiate football player and one of the earliest competitors in the Ultimate Fighting Championships. Kimo ended up losing his fight to the UFC 1 and 2 champion Royce Gracie, and then unceremoniously celebrating along with Joe Son when Royce bizarrely withdrew from his next fight due to a mixture of fatigue and dehydration. 3 months later, Joe Son decided to try his luck as a competitor at UFC 4, listing his fighting style as Joe Son Do with some interesting results. Yeah, that's Keith Hackney repeatedly punching Joe in his balls. The early UFCs were pretty wild, but as you'll soon be finding out, this could not have happened to a more deserving person. The fight ended shortly after that sequence with Son tapping out to a blood choke and getting eliminated from the tournament. The following year, he decided to try his luck as a kickboxer, but after finding some very brief success with a knockdown, he was quickly dispatched by his opponent Nobuaki Kokura. His extremely stocky 5'4", 230-pound frame proved to be somewhat of a hindrance when it came to fighting. He was powerful, yes, but didn't possess much speed or cardio past the first minute. And while his physique wasn't necessarily practical when it came to competition, it did give him a certain look that opened up doors in another lucrative field: movies. He starred in several low-budget action films like Joshua Tree, Blood Fist 5, Human Target, and even played the main villain in 1994's Bad Blood. His biggest role came in 1997 when he played Random Task in Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, a parody on the James Bond character Oddjob.
Let me go around the table and introduce everyone. Random Task, Korean ex-wrestler, evil handyman extraordinaire. Random Task, show them what you do.
This would also be his last role. By the early 2000s, the acting gigs had dried up, and Son decided to make a return to combat, hoping for better results than last time. Spoiler alert, they weren't better. By 2003, Joe Son fell out of the spotlight completely, essentially turning into an early version of a meme, only remembered by hardcore MMA fans on, at the time, obscure forums like Sherdog.com and The Underground. And things would have stayed that way indefinitely if it wasn't for an arrest in 2008 for felony vandalism. Joe Son initially got off light, pleading guilty and getting sentenced to 60 days in jail and probation. As part of his plea deal, however, he was required to turn in a DNA sample, and that's when things got dark. Joe Son went from a goofy pioneer of mixed martial arts to a monster in an instant.
Okay, let me tell you what the deal is, okay? Young girl, 19 years old. Late at night, early morning of Christmas Eve, 24th December, 1990. Driving home,
two people come over to the apartment complex in San Burgers. Okay? She parks in the carport. 2 guys jam her in the carport. They grab her, throw her in a car, drive her some distance away.
That's bad.
It's very bad. And the DNA tells us it's you.
Okay, wrong guy.
You recognize anybody in that? That's you, right?
That's me.
And what we did, showed that to the girl who was kidnapped. She goes, 100% certain, Sam, I've seen that face every night I go to bed. She said, that's the face I've seen of the guy who kidnapped me, one of the guys who kidnapped me. I mean, just that alone screws you, okay? No doubt about it, okay? And the DNA is saying, yes, you're the guy. And you're sitting here saying,
Son and an accomplice tortured and raped the victim before releasing her with her pants tied around her eyes. During the trial, the victim claimed he told her it's Christmas. This is your lucky day. Initially, the charges against Son were dropped, having expired due to the statute of limitations, but he proceeded to be charged with conspiracy to commit murder and torture, crimes that didn't have a statute of limitations, and was eventually found guilty of one count of felony torture and sentenced to 7 years to life in prison. This in itself would have been quite a shocking conclusion to Joe Son's story, but it didn't end there.
A relatively small-time actor is now attracting his biggest headlines ever, and they're not over movie roles. Instead, he has been accused of murder. 40-year-old Joseph Son, a mixed martial artist and actor best known for his performance in the first Austin Powers film, is suspected of killing his prison cellmate in a Kern County, California detention center, according to prison officials. Son had been serving a life sentence for his participation in the gang of a Southern California woman back in 1990. DNA evidence acquired in 2008 helped convict the Austin Powers actor in that case. He had received his life sentence in September of this year. The murdered cellmate, aged 50, has not been identified as officials have yet to notify his family of his death. The victim had been serving a 2-year sentence for failing to register as a sex offender. His body was discovered on Monday in the cell he shared with Son. Specific details concerning his death have also been withheld as the investigation continues against this former Hollywood actor.
On October 10th of 2011, prison officials approached the cell that Joe Son was sharing with his cellmate Michael Graham. Like Son, Graham was a sex offender serving a 2-year sentence for failing to register. Joe was found to be in the middle of washing his hands, and Graham lay deceased in his bunk. What exactly transpired that day is completely unclear to everyone except for Joe Son himself. In 2013, he was charged with murder and then eventually convicted of the lesser charge of manslaughter in 2017. He's currently serving 27 years in prison. This is a very tough story, and I want to thank you guys for sticking around and watching, and if you have some thoughts of your own, don't hesitate to leave them down below. And as always, I will see you all very soon.